Welcome to Ball Guy Sign. My name is Brian, and I make videos that are meant to help students, parents, and teachers kick some class with education technology in 2021 and beyond. And today we're going to tackle the beginning of a series in Google Forms. Now, some of you may use Google Forms already. This is going to be the very first, hey, I've been intimidated by Google Forms, but I want to see if there's something that could help me. This video is for you. So let's go ahead and jump in with an introduction to Google Forms. So you're ready to get started in Google Forms. The first thing you need to know is there's 3 ways to get there. Number 1, if you go to the top of any browser, if you're signed into your Google account, all you have to do is type in forms.google.com and that'll get you there. Now, looking over here on the right-hand side, because I'm logged in and because this is Chrome browser, right up here I have my Google Apps launcher. Now, looks like a Rubik's Cube or a giant waffle if you're hungry. I don't know. But if you click on that and you scroll down, you have all of the different apps that you have access to. So Google Forms would be right there. Yours may be in a slightly different place. So if you have another Google Doc or a spreadsheet open and you just click File, New, you can move over and select a form. But I'm going to use the old school way of just going to forms.google.com. This works for everything. So slides.google.com, docs.google.com, sites. You get the idea. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Because I'm logged in, this is going to open up a blank form header page, right? So I get some options at the top, first of all. And those options come from what's called the template gallery. Now you can expand this and look at all of the different templates that are available to you. They are customizable. You can use them for personal use, for professional use. It doesn't really matter. Those templates are there for you. And if you're part of a G Suite organization, like a school or a business, they might have custom-made templates put in there just for you to use that have company letterhead, style, all those sorts of things. So check that area out and see what you find for you. But I'm going to start from a blank, just plain old Google form. We're not going to make a quiz just yet, just a straight up Google form. So I'm going to click this blank. Once this thing opens, you'll notice that it's just like any other Google Doc. You have the untitled when it starts off, and then it populates it with a question. I'm just going to show you around a little bit first. The questions are places for you to gather information from whoever this is going to go to. The responses would be sort of like a database or a spreadsheet in the back where you get to look at those, and there's a lot of different options there we'll handle in a different video. Up here on the right, we have some fancy stuff, right? So some add-ons, we have some custom themes. We can preview it as the person would see it. If you're sending it to them, we can look at the individual settings and then we can send it out. Now the 3 little dots here, if you click those, you can make a copy, which if you set one up the basic way that you're going to use them all the time and then make a copy and move off of that, it'll save you some time. So another little tip there. There are pre-filled links. You can print them, add other people to collaborate in there, add scripts, preferences, all sorts of stuff in here. We'll get into those things as we get going here. So the first thing I want to do is just look at the settings. So I'm going to click on settings, and you have some things to decide. Do you want to collect people's email addresses? Now, if you are part of a G Suite like a school, you may not need to do this. But if you are looking to route the answers or some type of form, let people filled out back to them, then you may want their email addresses unless you already have them in your email address book from your organization. But that's up to you. If it requires them to sign in, so if you're doing something through a school and you want to limit this to people in your organization, you can select that and then choose, hey, are they going to be able to answer this multiple times or just once? Can they edit their responses afterwards? So with a quiz, you would definitely want to turn this off until maybe you've had a review session, and then you can turn it back on and have them go back in if that's part of your classroom culture. And can they see what everybody's doing? So you conduct a live poll with a Google form. You may want to show people what everybody in the room or in the district or that in that training session got from it. Then these next 2 sessions are really what are you going to be using Google Forms for and some special options there. So I just mentioned this presentation mode. This is sort of like when somebody looks at your Google form, it could come across like a presentation where they have to fill out several pages or several questions. Do you want to let them know what they're in for with a progress bar? Like, this is page 1 of 5096, and no, I do not want to take the survey. Do you want to shuffle the question order or does it matter? You get to choose that right there. You can show a link to submit again. So this is one of those things if you wanted to quickly generate a list of favorite places that someone has been, for example, they could submit one at a time and it would just keep adding it back to the database with their information. So you can customize the message there that they get when they're all done, that you've gotten it, and we're good. Now, because Google Forms can be used as a quiz type system, then when you check make this a quiz, you get some additional options like locking Chromebooks. If your school deployed Chromebooks like mine did, you can lock them into the quiz so they can't go look up the answers, and that is really a matter of preference. If you're just giving a simple quiz and you're okay with kids going to look up the answers because, hey, they're being resourceful and finding what you want them to know, then maybe you don't want to do that. Do you want to release the grade immediately after? Do you want to go over it with them? Can they see the questions they got wrong? Can they see the right answers? So all sorts of things in the settings that you want to check out. But we're just going to leave them, for the most part, alone right now. I'm just going to say, yeah, I do want to collect email addresses. I want to make sure that people only submit this one time, but they can edit it and see what's going on. So I'm just going to set those parameters and I'm going to hit save. So now I get to the part where I'm looking at my form, it's blank, nothing there. I'm going to go ahead and title it. So let's say that this is, for me as a teacher, the first day of school. I just want to generate some information from my students, collect some information about what they love to do, and maybe get some information about how their summer was, and just find that personal connection, right? So maybe I call it Student Questionnaire 2021, and I could put a description in there, getting to know my students. So now I have a question that's down below here. It's not titled, and I don't have to start this way, but if you're going to start this way, I'll just walk through what each question looks like, and we'll look at all the different forms. Before I do that, I want to look over here. I said you don't have to start with a question, but this is how you would add it. It adds one automatically because you want some information. That's why we're doing this. But if you already have some forms made, you could import questions or information from those other forms right into here. So this can be a quick time saver as you get making more and more forms. This option right here is really great if there are certain things you're going to keep the same each time. Now you can add another title. So if there's several sections and I'm asking my students what they did. And so first question, maybe I want to ask them about their last year. So I'm going to change this title and I'm just going to say last school year. I'm going to make that a title and I'm going to drag from these little dots right here up. So now when they get there, the first thing it's going to ask them is a series of questions about last school year. And so now I have a question below that, and I can duplicate these as I go. I can create sections to help keep things organized, and it just makes the flow of the document a little bit better for the user on the other end. They know what they're expecting. So then I'm going to go down after that, and I could, if I wanted to, make this a little bit more interesting. So let's say I'm going to insert an image from last year, and I want to look for images, just Google image search. I don't care what it looks like, but I don't want a plain blank form, so I want to put in something interesting. I'm just going to type in classroom. So now I get this little insert, and when I insert it, it just shows up right in line. I get the three little dots here if I want to change the alignment of the image, left, right, center, change, or move, all that good stuff. I can give it a title, I can copy it. Then I'm going to go down below that. I have video. So maybe I want to include a video of myself welcoming my students to my class. I've got that already in my Google Drive. I can go out and grab it. This works really great if you want in remote teaching to actually provide a mini lesson and then a series of questions like, what did you think? Or, you actually want to get some information from the kids about, did they understand? So you can check for understanding. You can ask them what they thought, give a reflection time, maybe run a journal or an exit ticket. But you can actually form the learning or whatever it is right around you teaching asynchronously. So you could do that with video. So I use sections to separate out the class periods that I have. So I actually put a drop down in there and I have kids choose their class period. That actually helps me when I'm on the reporting end. If I use this as a quiz to separate out those reports, only sort them by something they choose there. So I put all that in a section before I get to the quiz. But also, if you duplicate a section, you can drive students based on their answer, sort of like a choose your own adventure, from one section to another. So creating a section could be really helpful. So let's just say I'm going to create a section that just says, I'm new here. I live in a district where there are students moving in and out all the time. We have a military base nearby, and so having a section maybe that starts off, I'm new here, and then I insert a video that says, hey, welcome to our school district. This is where the office, the nurse, all that stuff is. They actually have access to that afterwards. So I'm just as an example. Okay, so I went through all that stuff, and now I'm on that first question. Now you can move all this stuff around wherever you want it. It is going to flow top to bottom. So if I say, all right, I'm new here, but I don't want this question there. I actually want this question to come right after that image. So I just need to drag it right up to that image, and you'll see everything move down, and then I can drop it there. So maybe I'm just going to ask the question, what was last year like? And there are several answer formats that students could use to give me a response back, depending on what I'm looking for. So if I click short answer and I leave it here, then I'm probably just going to get things like good, okay, not good, whatever, right? But if I drop this down and I change this to paragraph, it allows me an opportunity to coach my students or my audience, whatever it might be, that when you see that, I'm looking for something a little more. So for me, typically, if students saw a short answer response, they knew they could answer with one or two words. But if they saw a long answer text, then I was looking for multiple sentences. So 2 to 3 sentences, complete, restate the question, things like that. So I'm going to jump down from paragraph. Now you see we have multiple choice, pretty straightforward. You just add like and actually gives you a suggestion. Do you want to add everything? A, B, C, and D? Yeah, sure, why not? There we go. And I can include an option for other if there's an open-ended or... So with checkboxes, it's all up to you. They can choose one or multiples. If you're not setting this up as a quiz, it doesn't really matter. They just select the boxes that apply to them. A drop-down is just that. You put in the things here, and there's going to be an arrow, and they just scroll down to the one thing that they want. Now, drop-downs can be used really effectively if you click on this little button down here, these 3 little dots. You can go to a section based on their answer. So in the beginning, when I mentioned this, I had my class periods in there, or blocks, or whatever in your schedule. If I align this where if you're in my second period class, you get a different question than first period, this is one way to do it. This option is also there with a couple of other question types. If I go back to multiple choice, we'll see that it's there. So depending on what you want to do, there are a couple different ways you can do it. Somebody chooses something and then it moves them to a different set of questions depending on their answer. So if I go down below that, we have other options like a file upload, linear scale, choice grids, checkbox grid, date, time, all types of inputs that we can get from our audience as we move through. I'll show you one linear scale and then maybe the other 2 that are a little bit more complex. So linear scale, what was it like last year? So now I may want to rate from 1 to 5. I need to label them. So 1, let's be dramatic. It was horrific. I don't know. And 5 being amazing, right? Exclamation point. Amazing. So anyway, once you put that in there, you can actually also add an image. So maybe I want to use this picture from like happy to sad. Okay, it's going the wrong direction, but that's okay. I'm going to use that. So now I've got amazing and horrific, depending on the picture, that just to make it a little more fun. I can duplicate this. I can delete it just like every other one. And I forgot about this button. You may have seen it just a second ago when I clicked on these 3 little dots right here, which is I can show or hide my description. Besides that menu changing as per your question type, you can always let people skip or not let them skip things. So if this is one question, let's just say I asked the question. I know some kids or some people may not want to answer it. I can check that, and now they don't have to. But if I leave it on required, which is the default setting, they have to answer everything to move on. And that's our linear scale. Let me just show you multiple choice grid. And so in the grid, you're basically setting up rows and columns, and they're selecting things from that. So there are a couple use cases where this might work. If you wanted people to rate 4 or 5 different things on a similar scale, or have multiple scales, then you could find ways where this works. You can add rows and columns, so you're building it out and down. You're essentially using a table format. And then you can move them around as well as change those labels up. Checkbox grid, it's just going to do the same thing. Checkbox is moving across. It's the same format, except it's just different in the way that the user interacts. Okay, so those are our question types. Let's take a look at what it looks like on the back side when we go to our responses. So you have a couple of things that you can do here in responses. You can leave this turned off, which when I do quizzes or when I use forms and I reuse them, I turn them off until right when I'm done giving the instructions. I'll turn it on and have students refresh their screen, and then they can get right in. And it'll literally put a banner up there that says, hey, you don't have access to this right now. And then I'll have them refresh. That's a good way to check that everybody's with you, but not let them get ahead of you. So let me see your screen. Okay, everybody's locked out. Good. Click, refresh your screen, and go. And then you're going to get your responses right here, and you can scroll through them. But if you're used to using Google Sheets or Excel, sorting your responses to produce different forms or different graphics or whatever, you can actually add this to a spreadsheet, and then everything in that spreadsheet that you would normally have access to, you have access to. So if you collect a bunch of data from students and you want to put it into a graph, that's how you're going to do it. If you want to export it into a PDF or use a mail program, it's really, really powerful, but almost all of that power is going to come out of putting it into a spreadsheet, and that's how you do it right there. Okay. Now, if I check this, I can get all sorts of things. I can download a CSV. When I first started using this, Forms was easy to me, but I was very used to Excel, and I was struggling to make the shift over to Google Sheets. So I would download this as a comma-separated values, I would open it at Excel, and I would work my magic right there. So I'm going to go back. That's basically it until you're ready to send it. So let's say my form is done, but it's not. I click send, and I get a couple options here. As I can just send it in email. It'll embed this right in the email. They never have to leave. They do it right there. We're all good. I can actually grab a link to it and send that out, whether if you're sending it out on maybe social media or with your LMS. If you're going to embed this on a web page or in something that's web-based, there's a lot of different ways you can do that with Pear Deck and Google Slides. You could actually put an exit ticket right into Pear Deck in a way that maybe you're going to do something different where Pear Deck doesn't work. And then you have the controls of how big it looks, things like that. So maybe a little sidebar you want to run along a website or something like that. And then you obviously have some social media things there. So when you're ready to send it, that's how you do it. So as far as basic Google Forms goes, that's pretty much it. You can build your form as you go, move the sections around, collect your data, and then we'll talk about what you do with that data in a separate video. But for today, hey, what do you plan on using these Google Forms for? Are you in a classroom environment where you're looking for setting up Google quizzes or exit tickets, just getting to know your students? What are you going to use them for? Drop that in the comments. But hey, if you like this video, please click the like and the subscribe button, but definitely share this with somebody you think could benefit from it. That's what we're here for, to help you kick some class, and we will see you guys in the next video.